Hi, welcome to Texas History 2301. My name is Alfonso R. Lopez, and I will be your instructor for this class this semester. All right, so what we're going to be doing in this video presentation is a class introduction. Consider this as the first day of class, so to speak. This is when, for example, if you're be taking a face-to-face class, the first day you meet the instructor, and the instructor explains everything that you need to know about the course in terms of the requirements, how it's going to be structured, how the exams are going to be formatted, how to prepare for the exams. Also talk about assignments, if there's going to be any. Of course, there will be a major assignment at the end of the semester. Extra credit assignments and so on. Again, everything that you need to know in order to first know how to navigate this course on Blackboard, and also number two, to know how to prepare in order to not only pass this class but to excel the course as well at the end of the semester. All right, so let us turn now our attention to Blackboard, because this is going to be the main platform that we're going to be using to deliver the instruction, and this is where you're going to be also submitting all the work, like exams and assignments and the like. So let us turn to that page on Blackboard, and when you open the Blackboard page, this is how you're gonna see the page. Now I haven't posted any announcement yet. I'm about to send you one right now, indicating that I'm going to upload this class introduction video presentation on Tuesday, so for you to be pending on this video. I will send you an email announcement once it's uploaded, and it is very, very important that you go over this video presentation as thoroughly as possible, because once again, it's not just that we're going over the syllabus here, but this is going to provide a very good guidance and orientation for identifying the major components of the course, the major links where you're supposed to search for the lecture materials, for example. I will explain all of that, the lectures that are going to be recorded and posted on Blackboard and so on. And also where you will find the outlines of the lectures, and also where to upload the assignments as well. So this is a very, very important video presentation. If you can take notes, or just use it for future reference. Whenever you have a question, more than likely that question will be answered in this video presentation. Now, if we click on the top link on this left column that contains all the links for this course, and that link is syllabus, it will take you to the syllabus page. Now, if you want to download the file, I have provided a Word doc on the very top if you want to save it on your computer, or just to keep it handy for future reference. But when you open that link, it will take you to the actual syllabus page. I actually made sure for you to just have easy access to the syllabus. So let's start from the very top. This is History 2301, Section 003, Texas History. My name is, once again, Alfonso R. Lopez. The fastest and easiest way to reach me is via email, which is listed there, alfonso.lopez@austincc.edu. I'm checking my email several times a day, so more than likely when we're looking at, for example, Monday through Friday, you will be receiving a response within a 24-hour period. So if you send it early, let's say Monday, an email with a question or concern, more than likely you will be receiving a response that day. Now, if you send it quite late on Monday, you will be receiving the response the following day. Now, during the weekends, I might or might not respond within a 24-hour period. Just because in many cases I'm going out of town and so on, attending other personal or academic responsibilities and so on. But for sure, for example, if you send an email on Saturday, by Monday morning, you'll be receiving a response. Now, if I can, once again, if I'm really available on that weekend, you'll be receiving that response on the same weekend. But it is not guaranteed, again. So that's my policy. But for any question, any comment, any concern regarding the class, an assignment, the format, and so on, the exams, a concern about the grade you receive, and so on, or you want a clarification on some issue regarding the lecture, this is the best way to receive guidance, again, by email. Now, according to ACC policy, all electronic communication between faculty and students must take place through the official college supplied systems. That is, that if you send me, for example, an email through your private email account, I will not be responding to that private email account, and just because that's ACC policy. So if you want a prompt response, if you're trying to get an answer to some important issue and so on, please use your ACC email, and I will respond to that again as soon as I can, as soon as possible. All right. So in terms of textbook, there will be one textbook that will be required for this course, and this is the textbook by Keith Volanto. It's called Texas Voices. The 5th edition. Is very important that you obtain the 5th edition and not any earlier edition, because the reason why you're going to be needing this book is to complete an assignment that is due at the end of the semester. This is why you're going to need this book. So this is not really a standard textbook, that contains a narrative of historical events. Okay, so this is not something you can read from cover to cover, and he's going to talk about Texas history, but rather this is a collection of documents. It's a collection of historical documents, and those were written by very important historical actors of Texas history. And that's why it's called Texas Voices. You're hearing their voice directly, their opinions, their mindset, and so on. And I selected a series of documents from this textbook for you to read. They're very easy, and answer some questions on that. And once again, this is just for that assignment. So we're not going to be using a standard textbook per se for this course, just because, as I will explain in just a few minutes, the instruction that you will be receiving for this course is all through recorded video presentations or video lectures that are identical to the kind of lectures I provide in a face-to-face format in person. And as I will explain, my lectures do not really come from a single text. I just don't lecture from the book, in other words. So my lectures are composed from a multiplicity of sources. Books I read, over the last 30 years, for example, on Texas history and just on world history in general, for example, that pertain to the development of Texas. Articles I read, in my academic studies when I was in my bachelor's, master's, and doctorate degree, again, I read a multiplicity of different sources, and I've compiled all of this material together in a series of lectures that is really very difficult for me to find a textbook that is going to help you guide through the lectures. It's not going to provide that kind of guidance just because my lectures do not come from a single source. Okay, so as I will explain in just a few minutes, your main concern is just to watch the lectures and take notes, again, as if you were attending an in-person class. Okay, so I will talk more about the textbook once we get into that section of the course assignment. Again, that will take just some time before we get there, because we have to go over the syllabus and cover the other components of the course, such as, for example, the course description. For those of you who have not taken a Texas history course, this course is going to be a survey of Texas history that really covers the entire historical development of the state from prehistoric times, when, of course, Texas was not yet created. It was just a region. Okay, so we're gonna really take a dive, if you will, into prehistoric eras to look at the inhabitants of this region and their cultures, what kind of groups inhabited the region, their modes of subsistence and religions and so on. And then we're going to look at later on the encounters with the first Europeans that arrived into this region, and those were the Spaniards. The Spanish, of course, were the forerunners of exploration and colonization of the American continent, and they were the first ones to arrive to this region of Texas. And they began this process of colonization. This started out as early as the 1500s of the contemporary era. So we're going to also, in this course, look at Spanish colonization, not only the indigenous background of Texas and the different Native American groups that live in this region, but also the Spaniards that arrived, encountered the natives. We're going to examine the relationships between the Spaniards and the natives, and the process by which the Spaniards began to build a series of settlements, eventually creating missions and military garrisons, and the very first colonial towns of Texas. And we're going to look at all that development very closely. What kind of culture the Spaniards brought into Texas. So you'll see that Texas will be composed of a multiplicity of different cultures, starting with the Native American cultures that existed prior to the arrival of the Europeans. But then with the arrival of the Europeans, we see, of course, the Spaniards beginning to also bring in their own societies, their own cultures and traditions into Texas, whether that was, for example, cattle ranching, or they're also bringing the Catholic faith into Texas. Spanish institutions, like laws, for example, the kind of civil, if you will, laws that they introduce into Texas and so on, all of them brought from Spain. Okay, so this is very important that there's a strong Spanish also heritage in Texas. Now, our course is also at some point is going to look at the independence of Texas from Spain. Spain colonized the American continent from this region of what is called today the American Southwest all the way to South America. And around 1810, we see that all of those Spanish American colonies were up in arms, so to speak, and demanding their independence, and Texas was part of that process. And this led to the independence of those colonies and the formation of new nations. And Texas, by 1821, was part of the new Mexican nation. Mexico was formerly known as New Spain, the colony of New Spain. Texas was part of that. And by 1821, Texas is now part of this new nation called Mexico. So we're going to also look at the Mexican background as well. Okay, and something that spanned briefly from 1821 all the way to 1836. From that period of time, Texas was part of Mexico, and we're going to see Mexico being governed, Texas being governed by Mexico City, and there's going to be a strong influence as well of Mexican laws, Mexican traditions, and so on during that period of time. So we also have this Mexican, if you will, heritage coming into this region during that period of time. Now, on top of this, we're going to see Texas also being influenced by other cultures as well, and that is the Anglo-American culture. Because during the Mexican period, Mexico City created this immigration policy that allowed for settlements of Anglo-Americans to come into Texas. It was part of this modernization process that I will explain in the lectures. Mexico wanted Texas to modernize and develop, and they invited the Americans to settle, to bring in their capital and technologies and know-how and enterprises and so on in order to create this very vibrant economy in Texas. So we see, once again, another culture coming into the scene, if you will. And it's getting mixed with the Native American, the Spanish, Mexican heritages that were already present in this region. And we're going to examine that, the process of American colonization in Texas, which led eventually in 1836 to the Texas Revolution. In 1836, Texas declared independence from Mexico now as a result of a series of changes that occurred in Mexico City. In Mexico, we see the introduction of a new government that centralized authority in the hands of a single individual. So it was like kind of a dictatorship of sorts. Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna becomes dictator, and that led to the upheaval here in Texas in 1836, whereby the Anglo-Americans, along with the Tejanos, which were the Mexican residents of Texas, joined forces to fight Santa Anna, and we see the creation of an independent Texas. Texas becomes a republic. It becomes a nation for about 9 years or so, from 1836 all the way to from 1836 all the way to 1845. Okay, from 1836 to 45, we see Texas becoming a republic. So we're going to examine also those 9 years of Texas independence and the efforts by the different administrations, Sam Houston and President Lamar, trying to really develop an economy in Texas and trying to develop the political institutions as well of this new nation. And eventually, by 1845, Texas joins the American Union. It joins the Union as a result of efforts by many of the residents of Texas to be part of the United States. And so in that transition, we're going to look at the annexation of Texas, this process of annexation into the American Union, and we're going to look at the period from 1845 all the way to 1860 as a period whereby Texas was really adjusting and accommodating into the United States as a new state. So we're going to look at this process of being part of now the United States, and all the issues again that Texas was dealing with during that period. Trying to really invite investors into Texas from the other states of the American Union, and trying to develop a cotton and sugar based economy in Texas, which really led to this massive increase of a new group, a new population into the state of Texas, and that was really the African slaves. Again, now African slaves had been brought into Texas earlier than 1845, and that is when Mexico again opened up the doors to American settlers into Texas around 1823 or so. We see Americans coming into Texas and settle. A great many of those Americans brought in their slaves into Texas, so slavery was taking root into Texas way back, prior to Texas annexation. But with Texas joining the Union, it becomes now a new slave state, and we see the development once again of a cotton-based economy that required the further increase of an African slave population into Texas. So this is yet another contribution, if you will, to the development of Texas, that besides the other groups I mentioned, the Native Americans, the Spaniards, Mexicans, and Anglo-Americans, we also see, of course, the contribution, of course, of people of African descent that when they came into Texas were brought in as slaves. But as we'll see, in 1860, Texas joined the Confederacy when the Confederacy, again, the southern states left the Union and started the Civil War. This is another aspect in this course that we're going to look at, and that is Texas in the Civil War, fighting the Civil War as a Confederate state. We're going to really just assess very closely that period of time from 1860 to 65. The reasons why Texas decided to join the Confederacy, some of the problems it faced during the war, and why ultimately it surrendered in 1865. It was defeated. From that, we're going to look also at the process of Reconstruction that spanned from 1865 to 1877. This is a period of time when the South was being reformed, the slaves were being liberated, they were granted citizenship, the right to vote, for example, and this is going to be a process that each Confederate state was going through on their own, and they had very distinct ways of addressing some of those issues. So here we're just going to focus on Texas and look at how Texas was trying to really undergo those kinds of reforms, abolishing slavery, liberating the slaves, granting citizenship and the right to vote, and the like. Okay. After 1877, the last period of time that we're going to look at is the period of time when Texas enters the age of modernity. Okay, Texas is now trying to modernize completely by industrializing its economy. They're trying to invest in new industries. We're going to look at that very closely, all of the industries that flourish in Texas. Some of those had to do with, for example, the lumber industry, the mining industry, salt industry, and also the oil industry as well. Again, this is something that we're going to look at very closely. And also how they were trying to modernize its agricultural sector as well. They were trying to commercialize it and bring in machinery and technology, if you will. They were trying to really become a modern state. We're going to look at that all very closely. We're also going to look at some of the problems that modernity created for different groups of people, for the industrial working class, for example, how they were struggling to really survive in this new economy, how they started organizing into unions and the like. We're going to look at that very closely. Also, farmers were also struggling to survive in this new economy of capitalism and commerce, and how they're also were organizing into associations and alliances and trying to push for reforms and the like. Again, we're going to be looking at all of those struggles at the end of the 19th century. And in the 20th century, we will look at Texas continuing in this process of modernization by looking at different aspects of this. One is going through, for example, the progressive era. We're going to see an intensification in the country as a whole to bring about progressive reforms, progressive change, trying to reform the economy to make it more equitable, more open for groups to participate, whether those were middle class investors or farmers, for example, workers, granting rights to labor, and trying to break up monopolies and the like. We're going to look at the struggle of Texans trying to create a more progressive state during the 1910s, particularly the 1900s and the 1910s. We also look at the First World War and Texas participation, again, or contribution, let us just say, of the First World War. And then after that, we also look at Texas during the Great Depression, because by 1929, we see a major depression affecting the country as a whole. And here we're going to focus very specifically on the state of Texas, how Texas was affected by the Great Depression of the 1930s, and what were the efforts, what kind of policies Texas implemented at the state level to deal with the Depression as well. Now, the latter part of the course is going to look at Texas in the age of globalization, when we see a more globalized world, more interconnected economically, for example, and politically, in how Texas and the Texas economy is going to also become more and more connected to the global economy, particularly through their oil industry, for example. Something we're going to examine very, very closely. We'll look at issues such as immigration as well. There's increasing immigration into Texas, the creation of new industries like the high-tech industries, for example, the digital technologies and the like. And we will look at relationships between Texas and also the rest of Latin America as well towards the end of the course. So again, this is going to cover pretty much Texas history from prehistoric times all the way to the present day, what is called the age of globalization. Okay, now, as I mentioned a moment ago, my lectures do not come from a single source. They come from, a multiplicity of different sources, ranging from, books I read about Texas, but also about American history, about borderlands, meaning that I read also significant number of books dealing with the region of the Rio Grande, for example, area on both sides, relationships between Mexicans and Texans and so on, and also relationships between the United States and Mexico and the rest of Latin America and so on, and just in world history in general as well. So what you will notice about my lectures is that as I'm moving along the lectures. I just do not focus exclusively on the region of Texas, although this is a Texas history course, and I'll be talking extensively on that. I tend to connect events that are happening here in Texas with events that are happening on the neighboring regions, if you will, because they're all interrelated. Now, Texas did not really develop in perfect and in splendid isolation from the rest of the world. I mean, it was really a region that was developed by groups moving in at different points in time and then encountering one another, sometimes building peaceful, friendly relationships, sometimes very, very troublesome, hostile relationships, but nonetheless, no region, no nation, no society, no culture develops in perfect isolation from the rest of the world. I mean, this is really my approach, that when I teach history, I teach history from what is called a global perspective. I try to see connections, influences that are coming from the outside. So you'll see that, again, the history of Texas was very tied to the United States. It was tied to Mexico. It was tied to Spain in this case as well. It was tied to the indigenous civilizations that existed before the arrival of the Europeans, that were not only local to Texas, but were also civilizations that introduced their own values, their own practices into Texas, such as the Toltecs from Mexico, for example, or the Pueblo Indians of New Mexico, or the Mississippian culture of the Mississippi River Valley as well. Again, so I'm really trying to find connections. So this is something that you'll notice right away. Okay. And also another thing is that when I'm lecturing, you'll notice that I just don't use history when I'm teaching history. When I'm teaching history, I'm also using elements, methods from other fields of academia, whether that is sociology or anthropology, religious studies, political science, and psychology. I try to mix all of that because when I'm teaching history, I'm trying to understand people as thoroughly as possible. So when we're talking about religion, for example, the religion of the natives, we really have to understand their worldview in depth. The kind of universe that they conceived, for example, and we can see that through their religious beliefs and practices. And this is where I use, for example, anthropology or religious studies. I try to really take apart every aspect of their religion, what they believed in, the gods, the goddesses, the spirits that they pray to, where those spirits reside, why it was important for them to invoke them and perform certain kinds of rituals, why was it necessary to perform the rituals in certain locations and the like. So I'm really, getting, at the very, very depths, if you will, of the human psyche. I'm trying to get the inner perspective, trying to see the world through people's eyes as much as possible. And this is one of the reasons why I use, methods from outside fields, outside of history. All right. Now, I just gave you a synthesis of what we're going to be looking at throughout the course, a synthesis of the major topics and themes and issues that we're going to be exploring. Now, how are you going to be learning this material? And then this is something I've been saying ever since the beginning of this video presentation, and that is that the mode of learning, how you're going to be learning this material, is through a series of recorded video lectures that are already available. That are posted on Blackboard. You can find them, for example, let me show you the link under course content right here. There's a link titled Instructional Materials. When you click on that, you'll see two folders. The top folder is called Recorded Video Lectures, and here you will find all of my lectures, all of them. Okay, and those are the exact lectures I provide in a in-person class format. Okay, exactly. There are 9 topics, which means that the lectures are not really delivered randomly, in other words, or chronologically. I'm not just going year by year by year or what's really taking place in Texas, but rather I've selected 9 topics that, for me at least, provide valuable insights into the major historical events or eras or episodes that really shaped and transformed Texas into what it is today. Okay, so there are 9 topics or 9 themes. So it's a thematic organization, again, to the organization of the lectures. So there are 9 folders there because when you, for example, when you start this course and you click, for example, on the top one, it's called the Indigenous Peoples of the Americas in Texas, and you click on that, you will find that there are 3 video lectures. There are 3 lectures there. Okay, 3. You can see there session 1, session 2, and session 3. And they span for about, give and take, an hour and 20 minutes. Sometimes it's a little less, sometimes it's a little more, so on. Now, at the beginning of each lecture, particularly when you look at the second and third, sessions, the very first 5 minutes or so, maybe 7 minutes, I really synthesize and summarize everything that I lectured in the previous session. And this is something that, if you want, you can skip. I mean, that's fine. But it really helps you put everything together. Okay, so, you watch session 1 and you take notes. And when you go into session 2, sometimes, you want to be reminded, of what I talked about in session 1, because session 1, you saw it 3 days ago, or maybe 4 days ago, and then you're about to watch session 2, and then you're trying to remember, what we went over. And so, what I do in every session is, as I initiate it, is I tell you what we talked about in about 5 minutes or so. I synthesize every point, everything that you need to know, and then I connect it with what I'm about to then lecture from there on. Again, so you can skip that if you want, but I believe it's very, very useful. So at any rate, every folder that contains a theme or a topic has 3 video sessions. Okay. Ideally, you'll be watching 2 per week, 2 sessions, not 2 folders, because 2 folders is 6 videos. No, it's actually just watching 2 videos per week in that order. Again, you first, cover the first folder, you watch 2 videos per week, and so on, and that's how you move along. Now, I will be sending you the emails, and this is just a reminder. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I will be sending you emails saying, for example, this week, Tuesday we start with the class introduction, but on Thursday we start with the actual lecture. So I tell you, we're starting topic number 1 of the semester. Please watch session 1 of this topic. The following week, the next week, I will send you emails Tuesdays and Tuesday and another on Thursday saying, watch session 2 and session 3 and so on. And this is just for you to know where we are in the semester so you don't fall behind. Now, of course, you can watch those videos at any time. You don't have to watch them on those days, whatsoever. But, I highly recommend that you watch 2 per week, because if you fall behind, it's very, very difficult to catch up much later. You will have just a mountain of information to cover, So just try to make room, try to make space to watch 2 videos per week. Okay. All right. So let us return to the syllabus, because it continues to look at the mode of learning, and your responsibility is to watch those video lectures and take notes as thoroughly as possible, because all the information that you need to pass this course, to pass the exams, all the exams are going to be based on the lecture material. So you don't need to be catching up with any other reading whatsoever. It's not like, well, I've been, assigned the videos, but at the same time you have to be reading articles, nothing of that sort. So all you need is just watch the videos, and that's it. I know every instructor is different. There's some online classes where you're assigned just readings and there's nothing else. You read, chapters, or you have to read books, and then have exams over that. That might be multiple choice, or etc., or maybe writing an essay on that. But here I'm trying to provide a virtual experience of an in-person face-to-face class. Okay, so you are watching the instructor, you hear the lecture, you see the same outlines that I show on the projector in the classroom, where I show bullet points, for example, the major ideas that I'm elaborating. I show students, maps and graphs or photographs and so on. It's the same thing. It's the same experience. But you're doing this, again, at home in your own schedule. And this is something that, again, is very, very convenient. So you have the same duty, the same responsibility as as a student that is attending an in-person class. You have to watch 2 lectures per week. You have to take notes, and that material is going to be used for the exams once again. All right. I provided also here the list of the 9 topics that are related to the summary I provided when I was talking about the course description. Those are the 9 topics divided into 3 main parts, or 3 main historical eras. The first one deals with the indigenous Spanish and Mexican backgrounds, and we have 3 topics on that. Then part 2 is another era, is the era of independence, nationhood, and civil wars. And we have 3 topics on that as well. And then the last historical era is modernization, reforms, and globalization. And we have 3 topics on that. Now, in terms of the exams, there will be 3 exams, because the exams will cover, each one of them, 3 topics. So once we cover topic number 1, 2, and 3, we're going to have an exam over that. Okay? So there will be 3 exams once again. So each part has its own exam. Each historical part has its own exam. And each exam is worth 25% of the final grade. Now, the way that the exams are formatted, let me tell you, is that you will be required to answer a series of questions on one topic, and then key terms from another topic. So let us just say, for example, in the first exam, you will be required to answer the questions on just one topic, and for that you will have to choose between topic number 1 or topic number 2, for example. Okay? And there's about 4 or 5 questions that you have to answer very thoroughly. Okay? For 70 points. And then part 2 of the exam is that I'm giving you a set of key terms which you have to really elaborate in depth. This is not just a dictionary type of definition. that you have to provide, but rather this is something that you really have to explain and elaborate very, very fully. And those key terms are extracted from the material covered in the third topic, Texas in the Mexican nation, for example. Okay, so for the questions, you have to choose between topic 1 and number 2. You choose one topic and you answer all the questions for 70 points. But for the key terms, for 30 points, you have to answer the key terms from the third topic. Again, that's a must. There's no choice if you want to make over 70. Assuming that you're going to get 70 points, in part 1 by answering all the questions fully in an excellent way. Okay, so there will be no multiple choice questions, no scantrons of any type, no A, B, C, D, or fill in the blank or anything. It's just, again, answering the questions and answering the key terms very, very fully. Now, the exams have due dates, but they're not going to be timed. In other words, we're not going to hold a day in which you're going to have to sit in your computer with the log browser and so on, and then answer the exam. But rather, you have about 5 weeks to complete each exam. Okay, so you have all the time in the world. I mean, so to speak, because in those 5 weeks you have to watch the videos, take notes. But in the meantime, you can be working on the exam. They're already posted on Blackboard. This is something of more of a kind of like a writing assignment that you're doing. Now, let me stress this and highlight it and underline it so there will be no confusion, let it just say, as to, how to prepare, how to excel in the exams, and what not to do as well. Okay, so the exams are pretty much open notes. I mean, you do have to watch the videos. You have to extract that information. So yeah, in that case, you can say, yeah, it's open notes. But please keep in mind that I'm not going to allow, for example, literal transcriptions of the videos, whereby some students, all they do is just transcribe the notes. They use, Word or some other software, and they pretty much transcribe all the information and they submit it. Again, I've had students do that and they don't pass. Once I start reading that, I'm just reading my lectures, note, word for word, that the student did not really created that narrative, but it was really just me talking. It's just me in the narrative. I mean, that's not going to count, because what you're just, confirming is that maybe you just didn't watch the video at all. It was the machine. It was actually the computer or the software, the program, and so on, that I was actually listening to me and transcribing the information. Okay, so make sure that you create a narrative. I want to read your own ideas. I want to see that you are expressing yourself in that response. Now, this is very important, and I'm just stressing it over and over again. Please do not transcribe my notes and submit them for a grade, because, I mean, you're not going to receive a grade. Okay, period. When I see that. Number 2, some other students, instead of transcribing the information, they decide that they want to just browse the web and get the information from websites, from articles, etc. And so they use outside sources. That is also going to disqualify your work as well, because what you're actually saying to me is that, well, I didn't attend class. In other words, I didn't watch any of the information that you provided. This is a course that you're taking with an instructor that has something to explain to you. In other words, I'm here to provide a narrative of historical events and also an analysis. In other words, I'm analyzing also an information. I'm explaining you how and why things occur. In other words, and every professor has different, analytical points and perspectives and so on. When you take a course with an instructor, you're learning from them. Everything that instructor has learned, they're passing on to you. They're trying to teach you how to think, not just what to think, but how to think as well. Okay, so if you're writing in that exam, issues that were never discussed in the lectures, and what you're actually saying is that, well, I just I didn't watch the videos. In other words, so I haven't learned anything from this course. I'm just getting the information from other sources, and I'm just putting it on the paper. Okay, so in the past, students who have done that have not received a grade in their exam. So again, try to avoid those pitfalls, those trappings, because it's just very obvious that when students do not do the work, that they don't commit themselves to or review the information and watch the lectures. Again, it's very obvious. So they're not going to receive a passing grade. Okay, so I will send you an email announcement, with this information as we approach the exams, because as we approach the deadline for the exams, I'm going to remind you, okay, about a week before that the exam is coming up and so on, so you'll be notified. Okay. All right, so there will be also opportunities for an extra credit. Again, assignments, the extra credit assignments are already posted on Blackboard under course assignments. Everybody's entitled to do those assignments, and this is a great opportunity for you to earn 10 extra points for each exam. So again, this class is very flexible because I'm providing opportunities for you to improve, that your grades are not set in stone, but rather that you have the opportunity to add a whole letter grade into each exam by doing those extra credit assignments, which really, again, they're quite easy to do. It just takes, one to read an article. Again, there are 3 articles for each extra credit assignment. So you read an article and answer some questions on that. Again, it's about 3 to 5 pages in length, and they're submitted at the end of the semester. Okay, so it's very important. Now, before we move into the assignment, there's a piece of technical information here that you must know, and that is that you have until April 22nd to withdraw from this course and not be affected in your GPA or financial aid. After that due date, you will be receiving the grade that you earned in this course, whether you submitted any work or not. Your name will appear at the end of the semester on the roster to be given a grade. So if I have no grade, and you did not withdraw from the course, you will be receiving an F. So just keep that in mind. Now, as I mentioned, there will be a course assignment due at the end of the semester. Okay, one major course assignment, that is the study questions report. This is an assignment that is based on this textbook. Okay, on this textbook by Keith J. Bolanto. Is the 5th edition. Make sure you're getting the 5th edition. Okay, it's called Texas Voices. As far as I know, this is a book that is sold in the ACC bookstore at Highland campus. And they should be having copies available all the way until mid-semester. Now, after mid-semester, for some reason, the bookstore starts returning whatever books they did not sell because they assume that students are not going to buy them. In other words, it's just too late for students to get a book in mid-semester. They don't know that this book is going to be used for an assignment that is due at the end of the semester. Just they don't know that. So many students who wait until later in the semester to buy the book, find out that the book has no books available and they have to go online. Now, of course, you can buy it online on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or other online vendors. But remember that it takes about, it all depends, it takes about 5 days, maybe a week for the book to arrive. Sometimes, less than that, of course, but this adds another week of delay, again, that you have less and less time to work on this assignment, and then you're going to be totally rushed, and pressured to turn in an assignment that is very important because it's 25%. It's 25% of the grade. Again, and all it is I've selected, as I said earlier, 10 documents from this book for you to read. They're short reads. They're about 3 pages in length each, thereabouts, give and take. And there's a series of questions that you must answer on them. Okay, all the questions and the name of the documents, everything, including the page numbers, everything is listed here in the syllabus. So the syllabus contains all the instructions, in other words, for this assignment, this so-called study questions report, that is due on Thursday, April 25th. Okay, so it's really towards the end of the semester, almost, like a week, maybe week and a half before the end of the semester or so. So again, you have the entire semester to work on this. And I suggest that you start working on this gradually, slowly, but surely, again, across the semester, and have it ready to be uploaded by that due date. Okay, so in terms of the format, I highly advise here, and this is something that students must do here, is that you have to write the title of the document on top of the page. For example, the first one, Alvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca encounters Texas coastal Indians. For example, you write it, and then you use what is called a question and answer format. You write the question and then the answer, the question and the answer. And each document has about 3 or 4 questions, okay, on an average. So whenever you move into a new document, okay, you move into a new page, and in that new page, you write the title of the document that you're going to start working on. Again, in that way, you're identifying which document you're working on and also which question you're answering as well. So instead of, just writing an essay, you're following what is called a question and answer format. Again, and altogether, this work must be at least 10 pages in length, double spaced, page numbered, etc., etc. Again, all the guidelines are stated in the syllabus as well. Okay. All right. So the grading, there's 4 major grades for this course: first, second, and final exams, 25% each. And the study questions report is also 25% each. Now, I want you to also understand that besides those 4 major grades, we can use other factors as well, such as the extra credit assignments. You've got extra credit assignments as well that can actually boost your exam grades. But also, another factor that I use, and that is something that I use individually once I'm calculating grades at the very end of the semester, is that I use effort and progress. Okay, in other words, I look at the student and see, for example, first, second, and final exams. If you're progressing, let's say the first exam you made a 78, but then the second exam an 84, and then the final exam, let's say a 92. So I see progress there. Okay, you submitted the extra credit, the report, you did well on that, and then you submitted, let us say, one extra credit assignment. And at the end of the day, you ended up with, let's just say 89, or let's just say 88.75, grade average. Well, if I see effort, that, well, you submitted everything, you were progressing, you actually submitted an extra credit assignment that was superb, and so on, you're 88.75, well, I'm going to reward that effort, that progress, and give you the A. But only if I see effort and progress. Okay, don't take it for granted that just because you're borderline, again, 88.75 or 89, that's going to be an automatic, again, jump into the next letter grade. I have to see those two factors at play. Okay. Important calendar days, again, we start on this January 16th. We have spring break holiday from March 11th to the 15th. The last day to drop a class or withdraws, April 22nd, and the final exams from the 6th to the 12th. Okay, and at the very end of the document, you are going to read the week by week course schedule, the topics that we're going to be covering, again, week by week. Those are the topics that you should be covering, watching the lectures, again, as we move along. And then it tells you when to submit the first exam. The first exams must be submitted February 22nd. Then we move into the second part of the semester. We cover 3 more topics. And then we have the second exam on April the 2nd. And then we covered the third part of the semester, 3 more topics. And then it tells you April 25th, you submit your study question report, and then the final exam on the 9th of May. Again, May the 9th. Okay, where to submit those? There's a section right here on Blackboard called Submit Work, and all the links are there. First, second, final exam, study question report, and extra credits. You click on there, you're going to see an Upload tab, and this is where you upload the document again. Instructional materials, once again, here under course content has the video lectures and the lecture outlines. So when you're watching the lectures, you're going to see outlines. Okay, under instructional materials, there's going to be a folder titled Lecture Outlines and Questions. That's all the outlines as well. Those are not the notes. So you're not going to have any notes there, but just the major outlines. And under course assignments, you'll see all the major assignments that are part of this course, the exams, the report, and the extra credit assignments. Okay, it's quite simplistic. I mean, the layout in terms of where to locate the information and so on, and the submit work and so on. Again, I made it very accessible, very friendly, very manageable, if you will. So the major again link you're going to be using is instructional materials, those recorded video lectures. Again, this is the instruction. This is all, if you will, the information you're going to be receiving. Okay, and everything else is just submitting the work. Okay, so this is all I have, for this class introduction. I hope it was very helpful. If you have any question or comment regarding this orientation video, please let me know. Write me an email and I will respond immediately. Again, within a 24-hour period from Monday to Friday, 48-hour period during the weekend. Okay? Once again, my name is Alfonso R. Lopez. I will be your instructor for this class this semester. And I'll see you then on Tuesday when I send you the very first email notification that the video has been uploaded. Okay, thank you.